The words cut through Sarah Mitchell like a blade dipped in poison, echoing in the small apartment they had shared for 3 years as she stood frozen with her hastily packed suitcase in trembling hands. "You'll miss me forever," Marcus declared with the cold confidence of someone who believed he held all the power in their relationship, his voice dripping with arrogance as he lounged casually on the couch they had picked out together during happier times. "You're nothing without me, Sarah. You're a small-town girl with big dreams and no real talent. I'm the best thing that ever happened to you, and when you're sitting alone in some pathetic little apartment, eating takeout and wondering where your life went wrong, you'll realize what you lost." His cruel smile twisted into something ugly and vindictive as he continued his verbal assault, each word carefully chosen to destroy what remained of her confidence and self-worth. "You think you can make it as a photographer? Please. You're mediocre at best, and without my connections and support, you'll be serving coffee within 6 months, begging me to take you back." "Hi everyone, I'm Tina, and I'm here with you today as your friend and confidant, ready to share a story that will absolutely blow your mind and remind you that sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming everything someone said you could never be." Today, I'm bringing you the incredible journey of Sarah, a woman who transformed devastating heartbreak into the fuel for building a life so extraordinary that her ex's cruel prediction became the biggest joke of all. This story will show you exactly how someone who was told she was nothing became everything she ever dreamed of and more, proving that the people who try to diminish us often reveal more about their own limitations than ours. Stay with me until the very end, because you're going to witness one of the most satisfying transformations I've ever shared. And trust me, the moment when Sarah's ex finally sees what he lost will leave you cheering out loud. If this story touches your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join our community of incredible souls who believe in rising above those who try to tear us down. Sarah Michelle Porter had spent 26 years of her life in the small town of Millbrook, Tennessee, dreaming of capturing the world through her camera lens and building a career as a professional photographer. But those dreams had taken a back seat to her relationship with Marcus Chen, a successful marketing executive who had swept her off her feet with promises of adventure and a shared future in the big city. Their relationship had started like a fairy tale when Marcus visited Millbrook for a corporate retreat and spotted Sarah taking photos at the local farmer's market, her natural eye for composition and lighting immediately catching his attention as she captured candid moments of families and vendors with an artistic sensibility that made ordinary scenes look magical. Marcus had been charming and sophisticated, everything that small-town Sarah thought she wanted in a partner, and when he offered to help her move to Nashville and pursue her photography dreams while he established his consulting business, she believed she had found her perfect match and her ticket to the life she had always imagined. The first year in Nashville had been everything Sarah hoped for as Marcus introduced her to his professional network and helped her get her first paying photography gigs, shooting corporate events and headshots for his business associates while she worked part-time at a local camera shop to contribute to their household expenses. Marcus seemed proud of her work during those early months, often bragging to his colleagues about his girlfriend, the photographer, and displaying her prints prominently in their shared apartment as evidence of her artistic talent and his good taste in recognizing her potential. Sarah threw herself into building her portfolio, spending every free moment exploring Nashville's music scene, taking street photography that captured the city's vibrant culture, and slowly building a client base of musicians and artists who appreciated her unique ability to capture both vulnerability and strength in her portraits. Her Instagram following grew steadily as people discovered her work, and several local magazines began featuring her photography, giving Sarah hope that her dreams of professional success were finally within reach. However, as Sarah's confidence and independent success began to grow, Marcus's supportive attitude gradually shifted into something more possessive and controlling, revealing insecurities about his own achievements that he had previously kept hidden beneath his polished exterior. He started making subtle comments about her photography being more of a hobby than a real career, questioning whether she was charging enough for her services and suggesting that she was being taken advantage of by clients who didn't respect her time and expertise. Marcus began criticizing her artistic choices, claiming that her style was too emotional and not commercial enough for serious professional work. And he started pressuring her to focus on more lucrative corporate photography rather than the creative portraits and documentary work that truly inspired her passion for the medium. Their conversations about her career became increasingly tense as Marcus revealed his belief that her success reflected poorly on him, suggesting that people might think he couldn't provide adequately for his girlfriend if she had to work so hard to supplement their income. The relationship began deteriorating rapidly during their second year together as Marcus's true character emerged through his increasing demands for control over Sarah's career decisions and personal choices, transforming from supportive partner into someone who needed to diminish her achievements in order to feel superior in their relationship. He started scheduling his own business events on nights when Sarah had important photography shoots, forcing her to choose between her professional commitments and his expectation that she would always prioritize his needs above her own career development. Marcus would make pointed comments about her appearance when she dressed professionally for client meetings, claiming she was trying too hard to impress other people and questioning her loyalty to their relationship when she spent time networking with other photographers and creative professionals in Nashville's tight-knit artistic community. Their arguments became more frequent and more personal as Marcus revealed his deep-seated resentment of Sarah's growing independence and the respect she was earning in her chosen field, success that highlighted his own insecurities about his mediocre performance in his consulting business. The final months of their relationship were marked by Marcus's increasingly desperate attempts to undermine Sarah's confidence and professional relationships, behavior that revealed his fear that she was outgrowing him and might realize she deserved better treatment than he was capable of providing. He began making negative comments about her work in front of their mutual friends, subtly suggesting that her photography was amateur and that she was deluding herself about her potential for real success in such a competitive field. Marcus started intercepting phone calls from potential clients, telling them Sarah was too busy to take on new projects without consulting her first, effectively sabotaging opportunities that could have advanced her career and increased her income to the point where she might not need his financial support anymore. He would schedule romantic dinners or weekend trips during times when Sarah had committed to important photography assignments, then accuse her of caring more about strangers than their relationship when she chose to honor her professional obligations rather than disappoint clients who were counting on her services. The manipulation was subtle but persistent, designed to make Sarah question her own judgment and priorities while gradually isolating her from the professional network she had worked so hard to build in Nashville's competitive creative marketplace. Marcus's behavior revealed a man who could only feel successful by ensuring the woman he claimed to love remained dependent on his approval and financial support. Someone whose own insecurities ran so deep that his partner's achievements felt like personal threats rather than shared celebrations. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday evening in March when Sarah returned home from her most successful photography shoot yet, a magazine cover assignment featuring a rising country music star that had gone perfectly and promised to open doors to even bigger opportunities in Nashville's entertainment industry. She was bubbling with excitement about the shoot, eager to share her professional triumph with the person she believed was her partner in building a life together. But Marcus greeted her enthusiasm with cold indifference and immediate criticism about her being late for dinner. "Your little photo hobby is getting out of hand," he said dismissively, not even looking up from his laptop as Sarah tried to tell him about the magazine editor's praise for her work and hints about future assignments. "You're acting like this is some kind of career when we both know you're just playing dress-up with expensive equipment. It's time to grow up, Sarah, and start focusing on what really matters, which is our relationship and building a stable future together instead of chasing these ridiculous fantasies about being an artist." Sarah stared at Marcus across their living room, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time in their 3-year relationship, recognizing that the man she had thought was her biggest supporter was actually her greatest obstacle to achieving the dreams she had worked so hard to pursue. His words revealed not just his lack of respect for her chosen career, but his fundamental inability to celebrate her successes or support her growth as an independent, accomplished woman who didn't need his permission to pursue excellence in her chosen field. The realization hit her like a physical blow as she understood that Marcus had never seen her as an equal partner, but rather as someone whose role was to make him feel important and successful by remaining smaller and less accomplished than he was. "I think we need to take a break," Sarah said quietly, her voice steady despite the earthquake of emotions rumbling through her chest. "I need some time to think about what I really want from my life. And I can't do that while feeling like I have to apologize for my ambitions or downplay my achievements to protect your ego." Marcus's reaction to Sarah's request for space revealed the depth of his arrogance and his complete misunderstanding of what she had accomplished independently during their time together, as he responded with a mixture of shock and condescending confidence that she would quickly realize her mistake and come crawling back. "Fine," he said with a laugh that sounded more nervous than amused. "Take your little break and see how far you get without me supporting you and opening doors for you in this city. But don't expect me to wait around forever while you figure out that I was right about everything." He stood up from the couch and walked toward her with the swagger of someone who believed he held all the power in their relationship, his next words carefully chosen to inflict maximum damage to her confidence and self-worth. "You'll miss me forever," he declared, with cruel certainty, his voice taking on the tone of someone delivering a prophecy he was absolutely certain would come true. "You're nothing without me, Sarah. You're a small-town girl with big dreams and no real talent." Friends, I hope you're feeling what I'm feeling right now, because Sarah's story is just getting started, and what happens next is going to show you exactly why we should never let anyone else define our worth or potential. If you're someone who has ever been told you're not good enough, not talented enough, or not worthy of your dreams, I want you to know that you're exactly where you need to be right now. Please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because I promise you that the incredible stories we share here will remind you again and again that you are capable of so much more than anyone else believes, including yourself sometimes. And I would love to hear from you in the comments about a time when someone underestimated you or tried to make you feel small. Your story matters just as much as Sarah's, and sharing it might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today to find their own courage to prove the doubters wrong. The cruel prediction continued as Marcus paced around their apartment like a predator, delivering a final warning to prey that had dared to challenge his authority. His words becoming more vicious and personal, with each sentence designed to shatter whatever remained of Sarah's confidence in her own abilities. "You think you can make it as a photographer? Please, you're mediocre at best. And without my connections and support, you'll be serving coffee within 6 months, begging me to take you back," he declared, his smile twisting into something ugly and vindictive as he watched for signs that his verbal assault was achieving its intended effect. "I'm the best thing that ever happened to you, and when you're sitting alone in some pathetic little apartment, eating takeout and wondering where your life went wrong, you'll realize what you lost. You'll call me crying, admitting that I was right about everything, but I might not be available to fix the mess you've made of your life." Sarah listened to Marcus's cruel prophecy with growing clarity about the toxic dynamics that had been poisoning their relationship for months, recognizing that his need to diminish her stemmed not from genuine concern for her welfare, but from his own deep insecurities about his mediocre achievements and fear that she might discover her own power and independence. His words revealed a man who could only feel successful by keeping the woman he claimed to love trapped in a cage of self-doubt and financial dependence, someone whose own professional limitations made her growing success feel like a personal threat to his sense of superiority and control. The cruelty was breathtaking in its calculated precision, each insult carefully chosen to target her deepest fears about her small-town background, her artistic aspirations, and her worthiness of love and professional respect. But instead of crushing her spirit as Marcus intended, his verbal attack had the unexpected effect of crystallizing Sarah's determination to prove him wrong about everything, transforming his prediction into a challenge she was suddenly desperate to meet with spectacular success. That night, Sarah packed her belongings with methodical precision, while Marcus continued his verbal assault, alternating between cruel predictions about her inevitable failure and condescending offers to forgive her temporary insanity if she would just apologize and promise to be more appreciative of his support and guidance. She moved through their shared apartment like someone gathering evidence of a life she no longer wanted to live, carefully wrapping her camera equipment and selecting only the belongings that truly belonged to her, rather than items they had purchased together during what now felt like a fever dream of misguided compromise. Marcus followed her from room to room, his tone shifting from angry confidence to something that sounded suspiciously like panic as he realized she was serious about leaving and wouldn't be manipulated into staying through guilt or threats about her uncertain future without his protection and connections. "You're making the biggest mistake of your life," he said, watching her pack her photography portfolio with the same care other people might reserve for priceless artwork. "But I guess some people have to learn the hard way that dreams don't pay bills or keep you warm at night." The small studio apartment Sarah rented in East Nashville was everything Marcus had predicted and worse: a cramped space with thin walls, unreliable heating, and a kitchen so tiny she could touch both walls simultaneously when standing in the center of the room. Her savings account, depleted by the security deposit and first month's rent, contained barely enough money to survive for 6 weeks if she was extremely careful about every purchase and ate nothing but rice and beans until she could book enough photography jobs to cover her basic living expenses. The reality of her situation hit her fully on that first night alone, sitting on an air mattress surrounded by cardboard boxes and wondering if Marcus had been right about her inability to survive independently in Nashville's expensive and competitive creative marketplace. The silence was deafening after years of Marcus's constant commentary on her choices and decisions, leaving her alone with thoughts that alternated between paralyzing fear about her financial future and burning determination to prove that his cruel predictions were based on his own limitations rather than any accurate assessment of her capabilities and potential. But Sarah refused to allow herself the luxury of self-pity or second-guessing, channeling the pain of Marcus's rejection into laser-focused determination to build the photography career she had always dreamed of, regardless of how many obstacles stood between her current reality and her vision of professional success. She spent her first week of independence updating her portfolio website, reaching out to every contact she had made during her time in Nashville, and researching new potential clients who might appreciate her unique artistic vision and professional reliability. The responses came slowly at first. Small assignments photographing local band performances and corporate headshots that paid just enough to keep her fed and housed while she built momentum toward larger, more lucrative projects. Each successful shoot led to referrals from satisfied clients who appreciated Sarah's ability to capture authentic emotions and create images that told compelling stories rather than merely documenting events or people in flattering but forgettable ways. The breakthrough came 6 weeks after her departure from Marcus's apartment, when Lisa Rodriguez, the editor of Nashville's Scene magazine, called with an assignment that would change everything about Sarah's career trajectory and financial future. Lisa had seen Sarah's work through mutual connections in the music industry and was looking for a photographer who could capture the raw authenticity of Nashville's underground music scene for a cover story about artists who were creating innovative sounds outside the mainstream country music establishment. "I need someone who understands that real artistry often happens in dive bars and practice rooms rather than glossy recording studios," Lisa explained during their phone conversation. "And from what I've seen of your work, you have exactly the eye and instincts we need for this project. The pay is better than anything you've probably done before, and if the story goes well, it could lead to regular assignments with our publication and several other magazines in our network." Sarah accepted the assignment with professional calm that masked her internal excitement about finally getting the opportunity to showcase her artistic vision on a platform that would reach thousands of readers and potential clients throughout the Southeast music industry. She spent 3 days photographing in small venues across Nashville, capturing intimate moments between musicians and their audiences, while documenting the creative process that happened when artists felt free to experiment without the pressure of commercial success or mainstream approval. Her images told the story of Nashville's authentic musical soul, revealing the passion and vulnerability that drove artists to pour their hearts into songs that might never be played on country radio, but contained more genuine emotion than anything being produced in the major label's sterile studios. The magazine spread featured 12 of Sarah's photographs alongside Lisa's article, creating a visual narrative that captured both the gritty reality and transcendent beauty of musicians who prioritized artistic integrity over commercial viability. The magazine feature catapulted Sarah's reputation throughout Nashville's creative community, as word spread about the talented photographer who had captured something essential about the city's musical spirit that other photographers had missed or ignored in their rush to document only the polished surface of country music stardom. The phone calls started coming within days of the magazine's publication, with booking requests from record labels, management companies, and individual artists who wanted Sarah to photograph their album covers, promotional materials, and live performances with the same authentic sensibility she had brought to the magazine story. Her rates doubled, then tripled, as demand for her services outpaced her ability to accommodate every client who wanted to work with the photographer everyone was suddenly talking about as the next big talent in music industry photography. Sarah found herself turning down assignments, not because she lacked confidence in her abilities, but because she was committed to maintaining the quality and artistic integrity that had earned her this sudden recognition and professional respect. Within 6 months of leaving Marcus's apartment with nothing but her camera equipment and wounded pride, Sarah had established herself as one of Nashville's most sought-after music photographers, with a client list that included both emerging artists and established performers who appreciated her ability to capture the emotional core of their music through visual storytelling that went far beyond standard promotional photography. Her studio apartment was replaced by a spacious loft in the Gulch with exposed brick walls perfect for displaying her growing collection of published work, and her ancient Honda Civic gave way to a reliable SUV that could transport her equipment to shooting locations across the Southeast without breaking down on remote highways between cities. The financial security she had achieved through her own talent and determination felt different from the dependent comfort she had experienced during her relationship with Marcus, carrying with it a sense of pride and self-sufficiency that no one could take away or use as leverage to control her personal or professional decisions. The transformation wasn't just financial, but deeply personal, as Sarah discovered strengths and capabilities she hadn't known she possessed when her confidence was being systematically undermined by someone who needed her to remain small and dependent in order to feel important and powerful in their relationship. She learned to negotiate contracts with major record labels, to stand firm on her artistic vision when clients pushed for generic commercial photographs, and to build professional relationships based on mutual respect rather than the power imbalances that had characterized her romantic life with Marcus. Her Instagram following grew to over 50,000 devoted fans who shared her photographs and praised her unique ability to capture the humanity behind the music, creating a platform that attracted even more high-profile clients and speaking opportunities at photography conferences and workshops throughout the country. Sarah began teaching weekend workshops for aspiring photographers, sharing both technical skills and business strategies while emphasizing the importance of developing a distinctive artistic voice that couldn't be replicated or replaced by competitors with fancier equipment or more extensive professional connections. The irony wasn't lost on Sarah that Marcus's cruel prediction had become the motivation for achieving everything he had claimed was impossible for someone with her background and limitations, transforming his attempt to destroy her confidence into the fuel that powered her rise to professional prominence in Nashville's competitive creative marketplace. Every successful assignment, every published photograph, and every satisfied client became evidence that his assessment of her capabilities had revealed far more about his own insecurities and limitations than any accurate evaluation of her potential for success in her chosen field. The small-town girl he had dismissed as unworthy of serious artistic consideration was now being featured in national photography magazines, invited to speak at industry conferences, and consulted by other photographers who wanted to learn from her innovative approach to music industry portraiture. Her work was being displayed in galleries alongside established artists, and she was earning more money than Marcus had ever made during his most successful years as a marketing consultant, achieving financial independence that made his former support and connections seem insignificant in comparison. Sarah's personal life flourished alongside her professional success as she discovered the joy of relationships built on equality and mutual support rather than the emotional manipulation and power struggles that had characterized her years with Marcus. She began dating Jake Morrison, a sound engineer who shared her passion for authentic music and understood the demands of creative work without feeling threatened by her success or needing to compete with her achievements. Jake celebrated her victories as enthusiastically as his own, offering practical support during busy periods while maintaining his own independent career and personal interests that complemented rather than competed with Sarah's professional obligations. Their relationship demonstrated what healthy partnership looked like when both people felt secure enough in their own identities to encourage rather than diminish their partner's growth and success, creating a foundation of trust and respect that allowed both to pursue their individual dreams while building something meaningful together. The contrast between her current life and the suffocating relationship she had escaped became more apparent with each passing month, as Sarah experienced the freedom that came from being valued for her authentic self, rather than constantly trying to shrink her personality and ambitions to accommodate someone else's insecurities and need for control. She traveled internationally for photography assignments, documenting music festivals and recording sessions in locations that ranged from intimate Nashville studios to massive outdoor venues in Europe and Australia, building a portfolio that showcased her versatility and artistic growth while expanding her professional network to include contacts throughout the global music industry. Her work was being published in magazines she had only dreamed of reading during her early days as an aspiring photographer, and she was collaborating with artists whose music had shaped her own creative development and artistic sensibilities during her formative years as a young woman with big dreams and limited opportunities. 3 years after Marcus had delivered his cruel prediction about Sarah's inevitable failure and returned to his arms as a broken woman grateful for his forgiveness, she stood in the lobby of the Country Music Hall of Fame preparing for the opening of her first solo photography exhibition, surrounded by industry executives, fellow artists, and journalists who had come to celebrate her unique contribution to documenting Nashville's musical evolution over the past decade. The exhibition, titled Authentic Voices, Portraits of Nashville's Soul, featured 42 photographs that told the story of the city's music scene through intimate portraits of both famous and unknown artists who embodied the creative spirit that made Nashville special despite the commercial pressures threatening to homogenize its distinctive character. Her photographs lined the walls of the prestigious venue like windows into the hearts of musicians who had trusted her to capture their vulnerability and strength in images that revealed the human emotions behind their artistic expressions, creating a visual narrative that critics were already calling one of the most important photographic documents of contemporary American music culture. Sarah moved through the crowded reception with quiet confidence, graciously accepting congratulations from colleagues and clients while privately marveling at how far she had traveled from the broken woman who had packed her belongings in a cramped apartment while listening to Marcus predict her inevitable failure and humiliating return to his protection and financial support. The exhibition represented more than professional success. It was tangible proof that his assessment of her capabilities had been spectacularly wrong, and that the dreams he had mocked as unrealistic fantasies were actually achievable goals that required only determination, talent, and the courage to pursue excellence without seeking permission from people who were threatened by her potential for independence and success. Every photograph on those walls told part of the story of her transformation from someone who accepted other people's limitations as facts about her own potential to An artist who had learned to trust her own vision and pursue her goals with unwavering commitment to authentic expression. The reviews in major photography and music publications exceeded even Sarah's optimistic expectations, as critics praised both her technical mastery and her unique ability to capture the emotional essence of her subjects in ways that revealed universal truths about creativity, vulnerability, and the human need for artistic expression. Rolling Stone featured her exhibition on their cover with the headline, "The Photographer Who Sees Music's Soul," while American Photography magazine published a lengthy profile that traced her journey from small-town dreamer to nationally recognized artist whose work was reshaping how people understood the relationship between visual and musical storytelling. The attention brought inquiries from galleries in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago about hosting traveling versions of the exhibition, along with book deal offers from major publishers who wanted to compile her work into a comprehensive volume that would reach audiences far beyond the music industry professionals who had first recognized her talent and unique artistic perspective. My beautiful friends, I need to pause here for a moment because Sarah's journey is filling my heart with so much hope and inspiration that I have to share it with you. If you're watching this story and feeling that familiar ache of dreams deferred or confidence shaken by people who couldn't see your potential, please know that you are exactly where Sarah was when Marcus told her she was nothing without him. Your current circumstances are not your final destination, and the people who try to make you feel small are usually revealing their own fears about what happens when you discover how powerful you really are. Please, please, hit that subscribe button and join our family here, because I have so many more stories like Sarah's that prove over and over again that transformation is always possible when we refuse to accept other people's limitations as facts about our own potential. I would love for you to share in the comments about a dream you're still carrying, even if others have told you it's impossible or unrealistic. Your story could be exactly what someone else needs to hear today to take that first step toward proving the doubters wrong. And I promise you that every single person in our community understands what it feels like to be underestimated, and will celebrate your courage to keep believing in yourself. The financial rewards of Sarah's success had grown beyond anything she could have imagined during those early months of survival on rice and beans in her tiny studio apartment, with her photography business now generating multiple six-figure annual income from a diverse portfolio of clients that included record labels, magazines, galleries, and individual artists who competed for time on her increasingly selective booking calendar. She had purchased a beautiful home in Belle Meade with a custom-designed studio space that allowed her to host both intimate portrait sessions and larger commercial shoots without renting external facilities, creating a workspace that reflected her aesthetic sensibilities while providing the professional infrastructure necessary to serve high-end clients who expected perfection in every aspect of their experience. Her investment portfolio, managed by a financial advisor who specialized in helping creative professionals build long-term wealth, was growing steadily as she learned to balance her artistic passion with smart business decisions that would provide security and freedom throughout her career, regardless of changing trends in the photography industry. But the true measure of Sarah's transformation went beyond financial success or professional recognition to encompass the deep personal satisfaction that came from building a life aligned with her authentic values and artistic vision, rather than constantly trying to meet someone else's expectations or gain approval from people who were fundamentally incapable of celebrating her achievements. She woke up each morning excited about the creative challenges ahead. Whether she was photographing a rising star's first album cover or documenting an intimate acoustic session in someone's living room, approaching each assignment with the same commitment to excellence and emotional honesty that had become her signature style. Her work felt like a calling rather than simply a job, connecting her with artists and audiences who shared her belief that authentic expression was more valuable than commercial success, and that great art emerged from the courage to be vulnerable and truthful rather than safe and conventional. The unexpected encounter came on a Thursday evening in October when Sarah was attending the opening reception for a new music venue in downtown Nashville, photographing the event for a magazine story. about the city's evolving entertainment landscape and the entrepreneurs who were creating spaces for both established and emerging artists to connect with audiences hungry for authentic musical experiences. She was adjusting her camera settings to capture the warm lighting and intimate atmosphere when she noticed a familiar figure standing near the bar, nursing a drink and looking significantly older and less confident than she remembered from their painful last conversation 3 years earlier. Marcus appeared thinner and somehow smaller than her memory had preserved, his expensive suit hanging loose on his frame, while his eyes carried the haunted look of someone who had discovered that confidence built on other people's diminished expectations was ultimately unsustainable when faced with real competition and genuine challenges in the professional world. Sarah's initial impulse was to avoid any interaction that might disrupt the peaceful evening or create awkward conversation that would serve no productive purpose for either of them. But Marcus spotted her before she could retreat to another area of the venue and began making his way through the crowd with determined steps that suggested he had been planning this conversation since the moment he recognized her presence. His approach carried none of the swagger and condescending confidence that had characterized their relationship, replaced instead by the tentative movements of someone who understood he was requesting. Rather than demanding attention from a person who owed him nothing and had every right to refuse his desire for reconciliation or closure. "Sarah," he said quietly when he reached her position near the photography backdrop. His voice lacking the commanding tone she remembered so clearly from their arguments about her career aspirations and his predictions about her inevitable failure without his support and guidance. "Hello, Marcus," Sarah replied with polite professionalism, continuing to adjust her camera equipment while acknowledging his presence without encouraging extended conversation or giving him reason to believe she was interested in revisiting their shared past or discussing the ways their lives had diverged since their painful separation. She noticed how his eyes took in her expensive camera gear, her confident posture, and the press credentials hanging around her neck that identified her as a working professional photographer covering the event for a nationally distributed magazine. Evidence that contradicted every prediction he had made about her inability to succeed in Nashville's competitive creative marketplace. Marcus shifted uncomfortably under her calm gaze, apparently struggling to reconcile the successful woman before him with his memories of someone he had dismissed as incapable of surviving without his protection and financial support. His discomfort obvious as he processed the reality that his cruel prophecy had not only failed to materialize but had been spectacularly disproven by her achievements. "I heard about your exhibition at the Hall of Fame," Marcus said, his words coming slowly, as if he was testing each phrase before speaking to avoid saying something that might reveal the depth of his miscalculation about her potential or his own role in trying to prevent her success through emotional manipulation and systematic undermining of her confidence. "The reviews were impressive. I always knew you were talented, but I never expected—" He trailed off, apparently realizing that acknowledging her success meant admitting that his previous assessment of her capabilities had been completely wrong, motivated by his own insecurities rather than any accurate evaluation of her artistic potential or business acumen. Sarah waited patiently for him to finish his thought, feeling neither anger nor satisfaction at his obvious discomfort, but rather a kind of distant curiosity about what he hoped to accomplish through this unexpected conversation and whether he had learned anything meaningful from watching her achieve everything he had claimed was impossible. "I made mistakes," Marcus continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper as he struggled with what appeared to be his first genuine attempt at acknowledging the damage his words and behavior had caused during their relationship and its painful conclusion. "The things I said when you left, the way I treated your dreams and ambitions. I was wrong about everything, Sarah. I let my own fears and insecurities make me say things that were cruel and unfair, and I've regretted it every day since you walked out of our apartment with nothing but your camera and your determination to prove me wrong." His admission carried the weight of someone who had spent considerable time reflecting on his behavior and its consequences, suggesting that her success had forced him to confront uncomfortable truths about his own character. and the toxic dynamics he had brought to their relationship through his need to maintain control and superiority at the expense of her growth and happiness. Sarah listened to Marcus's confession with the same professional composure she brought to challenging photography assignments, neither encouraging his self-reflection nor dismissing his apparent genuine remorse for the pain he had caused through his inability to support her dreams or celebrate her achievements during their time together. "I appreciate you saying that," she replied honestly, recognizing that his acknowledgement of his mistakes represented growth even if it came too late to repair the damage he had inflicted on their relationship and her confidence during its most vulnerable stages. "I hope you've learned something about yourself that will help you treat future partners with more respect and encouragement than you were able to show me when I needed support the most." Her response was gracious without being forgiving, acknowledging his attempt at accountability while maintaining clear boundaries about her willingness to engage in deeper conversation about their shared past or his current emotional state. The conversation might have ended there with mutual acknowledgement of past mistakes and current realities, but Marcus seemed compelled to continue his confessions, perhaps hoping that admitting the full extent of his errors would somehow absolve him of the guilt he had been carrying since watching Sarah's career flourish in ways that made his predictions look not just wrong, but actively malicious in their intent to destroy her confidence and self-worth. "I've been following your career," Marcus admitted with obvious embarrassment, his face flushing as he revealed the extent to which he had been tracking her success through social media, magazine articles, and industry publications that documented her rise from unknown photographer to nationally recognized artist whose work was reshaping how people understood the intersection of visual and musical storytelling. "Every time I saw another article about your exhibitions or read reviews praising your work, I remembered what I said about you serving coffee and begging me to take you back, and I realized how completely wrong I was about everything. You didn't miss me forever, Sarah. You built a life I could only dream of having, and you did it with the same determination and talent I was too insecure and threatened to recognize when we were together." His words tumbled out in a rush of honesty that seemed to surprise him as much as it did Sarah, as if he had been rehearsing this conversation for months, but hadn't expected to reveal quite so much about his own diminished circumstances and professional disappointments. Marcus continued his painful confession, explaining how his consulting business had struggled after several major clients discovered his tendency to overpromise and underdeliver on projects that required genuine creativity and innovation rather than the superficial marketing strategies that had initially impressed clients who didn't understand the difference between flashy presentation and substantive results. "I kept telling myself that my problems were just temporary setbacks, that I was dealing with unreasonable clients who didn't appreciate my expertise," he said, his voice growing more strained with each admission. "But watching your success from a distance made me realize that the problem wasn't other people failing to recognize my value. The problem was that I had become so focused on trying to control and diminish the people closest to me that I had stopped growing and developing my own skills, thinking that making you feel small would somehow make me feel bigger and more successful by comparison." Sarah observed Marcus's emotional breakdown with professional detachment, recognizing that his current crisis of confidence and career disappointments were natural consequences of character. Flaws that had been apparent during their relationship, but which she had been too young and insecure to identify as red flags about his fundamental inability to build healthy partnerships or sustainable professional success. His need to diminish her achievements had stemmed from his own mediocrity and fear of being outshined by someone he considered inferior due to her small-town background and lack of industry connections, revealing insecurities that had ultimately sabotaged both their relationship and his own career trajectory when he applied the same toxic patterns to his business relationships. "Marcus," she said gently but firmly, "I'm glad you've gained some insight into your behavior and its consequences, but I need to finish photographing this event. I have deadlines to meet and professional commitments that require my full attention." The dismissal was polite but absolute, signaling that while Sarah harbored no active resentment toward her former partner, she also had No interest in providing emotional support or extended conversation to someone whose cruelty had once threatened to derail her dreams, but had instead become the motivation for achieving everything he had claimed was impossible. Marcus nodded with obvious disappointment, but also apparent understanding that he had forfeited any claim to her time or emotional energy when he had chosen to respond to her ambitions with mockery and sabotage rather than encouragement and support. "I understand," he said quietly, stepping back to give her space to work, while clearly hoping she might offer some gesture of forgiveness or reconciliation that would ease his guilt about the role he had played in trying to destroy her confidence during the most crucial period of her career development. "I just wanted you to know that I was wrong about everything, and I'm genuinely proud of what you've accomplished despite my efforts to convince you it was impossible." Sarah returned to her photography work with renewed appreciation for the journey that had brought her from that cramped studio apartment, where she had questioned whether Marcus might be right about her limitations, to this prestigious venue, where she was documenting Nashville's cultural evolution as a recognized professional whose artistic vision was valued and celebrated by clients and colleagues throughout the industry. Each photograph she captured that evening carried additional meaning as evidence of her transformation from someone who had accepted other people's assessments of her potential to an artist who had learned to trust her own instincts and pursue excellence without seeking permission or approval from people who were threatened by her success. The camera in her hands represented not just her professional tool, but the symbol of her independence and self-determination, the instrument through which she had built a life that exceeded even her own optimistic expectations about what might be possible with sufficient determination and unwavering commitment to authentic expression. As the evening concluded, and Sarah packed her equipment with the same methodical care she had learned during those early days of financial uncertainty, when every piece of gear represented a significant investment in her uncertain future, she reflected on the profound transformation that had occurred not just in her external circumstances, but in her fundamental understanding of her own worth and capabilities. Marcus's cruel prediction that she would miss him forever had become the greatest gift he could have given her, providing the motivation to prove that his assessment of her limitations revealed more about his own character defects than any accurate evaluation of her potential for success and happiness. The life she had built was indeed something he could only dream of having, not because of any material achievements or professional recognition, but because it was founded on authentic self-knowledge, supportive relationships, and the deep satisfaction that came from pursuing work that aligned with her values and utilized her unique talents in service of something larger than personal gain. Sarah drove home to her beautiful house in Belle Meade that night, knowing that she had finally and completely closed the chapter on a relationship that had once threatened to define her limitations, but had instead become the catalyst for discovering her unlimited potential for growth, success, and genuine happiness. Built on her own terms, rather than someone else's narrow vision of who she should be and what she deserved to achieve.